Mr. Chairman, sir, I find it very difficult to accept the conclusion that this is probably the last time I'm addressing you as Mr. Chairman, sir. And with all the wits at my command, I can only, sir, share with you and this House that I'm greatly honored to have been here for the last 1 decade when you were the Chairman, when you had in a different time the unprecedented responsibility to serve as the Chairman for 2 consecutive terms. The only other person is the one whose portrait we have here in the Central Hall, Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, that you are part of that distinguished legacy of this House and our country's history. And I'm really honored, and I have at a total loss of words to express comprehensively what I feel about your contribution to this House. I think, sir, one thing that you have contributed, which I very gratefully acknowledge, is to give this House a certain gravitas. That what we discuss here are issues of substance, and those issues of substance, whatever be the acrimony, whatever be the differences, eventually we did come to very, very important conclusions, passed many a legislation, and you stood like a rock in defense of the rights of this House. The only regret I have that as you are leaving is that we have not yet settled what is the control over this complex called the Parliament House and what is the role of the Rajya Sabha, which you have tried for the last 1 decade, but I think we have not yet. I hope that in the future, since I shall also, let me say, have the honor of leaving this House along with you, so that I hope that the future and my colleagues here will continue to resolve this problem. Yes, sir, we have had, I personally recollect, you assumed the chair, there was a lot of apprehension that since you are not used to public life in terms of parliamentary life, but you had a very distinguished career, which all of my colleagues have spoken, I do not want to repeat that. But therefore, you may not be capable of really conducting such a difficult House. I remember you telling us then that everything and every institution in the country runs by the rules. There are rules according to which they'll be run, and I shall just go by the rules. And then I recollected the reputation you came here with, apart from your glorious reputations of service in the as a career diplomat, of the services that you have rendered to this country as an intellectual, as a contributor to various problems, the National Human Rights Commission, the Kashmir issue. Apart from all that, there was another reputation that you had, and you still have. You were known, as I was told from the days of your Aligarh University student times, that you were the best umpire that Aligarh University ever produced. Being an avid cricketer, and you have been the best umpire in this House, and I want to pay my respects to that you have conducted this in a very meticulous fashion according to the rules. Yes, we have had disagreements, sir. I remember standing from here, asking you at the midnight of 31st of August, Pania, what are you going to do when the clock strikes 12 midnight? There was no answer, and we all knew what would happen. The Lokpal bill was to be passed, and that eventually you adjourned the House. We were very bitterly, upset that, and unfortunately today we don't have the Lokpal even today. That's a different point. But at that time we had our differences. But your contributions, sir, I think they must be placed on record. One, which I had also proposed, but till the chair agrees, nothing can materialize, that is the shifting of the question hour, which really, I think, made this House more productive in terms of the number of questions being answered and keeping the executive accountable to the Parliament, and also giving all of us a chance for that 1 hour in the morning to raise issues of public importance in the 0 hour, which has virtually become a mandatory 1 hour every day now, which is very good because that gives the opportunity for the members to reflect on the real conditions of the people and that of the country. The second thing, which my colleague Ram Gopalji has mentioned, your insistence that no legislation can be passed in a din is something that has really contributed to add substance to this House. And I only wish your predecessor and the House in the future will continue with that principle that the Rajya Sabha will not allow any legislation to be passed when the House is not in order. And that is something that I think needs to be adhered to. But the other contribution of yours, I would also wish to mention, sir, is on the question of the Rajya Sabha television. You will recollect, sir, when this discussion came up, I was initially of the opinion that why should there be two television channels, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, we should have one parliament channel. But I am so glad that you overruled my opinion. I am very happy that, my position was being rejected and that you have this Rajya Sabha television today, which has, I think, contributed immensely for developing that consciousness that is required of our younger generation on how our democracy works and how our constitution evolves. One of our former colleagues in this House, Mr. Shyam Benegal, produced that monumental series called Samvidhan. Very few, even in my generation, would know of all the debates and the struggles that went in creating this wonderful document called the Indian Constitution. There are very many weaknesses which we need to correct, but the strengths are what we need to uphold, and I think that was a great contribution. We've seen the trial of a slogan that used to, arouse a degree of patriotism in all of us in my generation. Saigal Dillon Shanawaz, the INA trials, and what that has been documented today as is a part of our people's struggle for independence, yes, which I think is a very big contribution that the Rajya Sabha TV has made. So thank you for steering that channel in this manner, sir. But I'd also like to add that it also had a flavor of culture and a certain what are called the invisibles of the culture. That is, I'm talking of the Hindi film industry and the Hindi songs and the various episodes that the Rajya Sabha television showed. Because after all, sir, all of us, whether we accept it or not, most of us have grown up listening to Hindi songs shaping our consciousness. That is the Indian reality. When people were illiterate, when they could not read, philosophy was given to them through the songs. And I remember that program on Shailendra, a person who unfortunately committed suicide, but who written some wonderful lyrics for Raj Kapoor and for Shankar Jayakishan. But that one song of his, "Tu zinda hai, tu zindagi ke jeet mein yakin kar. Agar kahin hai swarg to utar la zameen par." And that is what your chairmanship has actually taught most of us. And I would only like to thank you very much for that, sir. There's so much more that I'd like to say, but only as you retire and as you go into a life which you've long been looking forward to, of writing, of introspecting, and also I'd only request you to continue to share your wisdom with us. And along with you, I'd like to thank also the entire staff that worked with you for the last 10 years, and those who have actually taken care of us. If I get a chance to bid farewell to this house subsequently, I will. Now we are only bidding farewell to you. But I would only like to say that please continue to spread your wisdom. And if there's anything, I'll only end by saying that anything that I have learned personally, is what Shakespeare had said most eloquently, and you would probably know that passage better than I do. Polonius has advised to his son, and Dr. Saab is already ready to help me recite it. But the final two sentences that he says, "And above all, be true to thine own self. Then it shall follow like the night the day, that thou shalt do no harm to no man." Beautiful. Right, sir? More or less. So that is it, sir. And we have had ideological differences, we'll continue to have. But we have a certain commitment and a commonness in terms of building a better India for ourselves and for our future. And that better India building can only happen if all of us are true to our own selves. And I only thank you very much for re-emphasizing that wisdom. And I only wish you continue to share your wisdom with all of us and the country after you leave this august house and this august office. And in your private life, you will be able to make these contributions I think, in as effective a way as you have been making while you are on the chair. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Sitaram ji.